Well, welcome to the 700 Club. 3 flagpoles stand outside Boston City Hall. One flies the United States flag, another the flag of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But the third flagpole is to celebrate other countries, cultures, and causes.
Hundreds of private groups have been allowed to raise their banners on that third flagpole, but a Christian group was denied. Today, the Supreme Court hears their case. Reporter Caitlin Burke has the details.
Over a 12-year period, the city of Boston received nearly 300 applications for that third flagpole. They approved all of them except one.
These include flags of individuals, say, for example, the Metro Credit Union, a gay pride, Boston Pride, other causes. In addition to that, they also had individuals that would raise flags of their countries.
The sole rejection came in 2017 when an organization called Camp Constitution applied to raise a Christian flag and hold a 1-hour ceremony in honor of Constitution Day.
What they said was, while this was the first flag of a religious nature, they said that it would have been allowed to fly had it not been called Christian. So the same flag had no problem to the city as long as you didn't call it something religious.
Camp Constitution Director Hal Shurtleff sued the city, and now his case will be heard by the Supreme Court.
This case is so much bigger than a flag. It really involves whether the government can open a forum for a lot of different voices and then shut the door for Christian viewpoints.
Despite the fact that the city itself has referred to the flagpole as a public forum, its attorneys are expected to argue this is a case of government speech, meaning the flagpole speaks for the city of Boston.
That defies logic because Boston allows 2 competing Chinese organizations or individual groups to put opposite flags, both of the Chinese community, one pro-China, one anti-China, the other one pro-communism, the other one anti-communism. Boston cannot be pro-China one week, anti-China the next, pro-communism one week, anti-communism the next. That's classic free speech in a public forum. That's not the speech of Boston.
This case has attracted some unlikely allies. The ACLU, a group that normally fights against religious displays on government property, filed a brief supporting Camp Constitution. The Biden administration also supports their side. Staver, the camp's counsel, says this case will have significant implications on private free speech. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, the Supreme Court's already ruled on open forums when a government agency, any sort of government, opens an open forum and allows for open discussion. You can't discriminate on the basis of viewpoint. You certainly can't discriminate on the basis of religion, which is exactly what the city of Boston is doing here. And the city fathers of the city of Boston are all rolling around in their graves because they never imagined this could ever happen in the city that they founded. While it's an important constitutional issue and an important constitutional case, the city of Boston has already said we're not going to allow any private group to use that third flagpole going forward. And so for all intents and purposes, the case is now moot. So it's one to watch, and it's one that we have to constantly watch over our religious liberties now in the United States of America. It just seems the government increasingly is becoming anti-Christian. Well, in other news, snow, ice, rain, even tornadoes were all part of the storm that hit the South and Northeast this week. John Jessup has more on that from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That is right, Gordon. The huge winter storm left up to 20 inches of snow in the Carolinas and more than a foot in parts of the Northeast. Now, with freezing temperatures and colder air on the way, there's concern about freezing roads. Mark Martin has the story.
The dangerous winter weather hit the eastern U.S. with significant snowfall, strong thunderstorms, and gusty winds. Millions of Americans are feeling the impact, with tens of thousands of people out of power from North Carolina to Maine. Travelers stranded as hundreds of flights were canceled. In just hours, Buffalo, New York shattered snowfall records. The winter storm system especially pummeled Cleveland, Ohio, upsetting drivers trying to dig out.
Look at me, I'm all stuck here. I don't appreciate this. I don't.
Meteorologists said a foot or more of snow fell in parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York State through Monday. Up to 20 inches of snow fell in the North Carolina mountains. The system also hit the Tar Heel State with dangerous ice. Many drivers near Raleigh's airport fought to stabilize their cars on the road. In Durham, a tractor-trailer slid off a frozen overpass. The driver had to be rushed to the hospital. In Nash County, the storm turned deadly when at least 2 people were killed after their car careened off I-95. In New England, the winter weather system brought coastal flooding and waves overtaking a pier. The storm surge forced water rescues in Connecticut. Meanwhile, in Florida, the same system produced tornadoes, including an EF2 in Fort Myers. The destructive winds wreaking havoc on a mobile home park.
This happened so fast, it was just unbelievable.
A new batch of Arctic air is predicted to push southward over the plains. That could lead to another winter storm on the Atlantic coast later Friday and Saturday. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Some wild and dangerous winter weather. Thank you, Mark. Well, cautious optimism now that we might be seeing the beginning of the end of the Omicron surge, with cases dropping in some hot spots. In Washington, D.C., new infections are down 25% over the past week and down 17% in both New York and New Jersey. Still, hospitals coast to coast are full and emergency rooms are backing up. Some hospitals even forced to postpone surgeries because of the overflow. Tomorrow, Americans can begin ordering up to 4 free at-home COVID tests online through a government website that addresses covidtests.gov. Well, more details are emerging of that dramatic escape by 3 hostages held at a Texas synagogue Saturday. Rabbi Charlie Citron Walker said he let the gunman in and served him tea because he appeared to need shelter, and that while he was praying, the man took out a weapon. Near the end of the 11-hour ordeal, the man ordered the hostages to get on their knees. That's when the rabbi threw a chair at him, and the 3 made that daring dash through a nearby door. At an interfaith healing service Monday night, he gave thanks to God.
We are so thankful to the source of redemption, the source of blessing, the source of peace, for redeeming us in our time of need.
The suspect, a British national who died when agents rushed the building, had demanded the release of a convicted terrorist held in a nearby prison. The FBI is investigating the attack as terrorism targeting the Jewish community, but the Bureau has come under fire for an initial statement that the attack, quote, was not specifically related to the Jewish community. Ellie Kohanim is a former deputy special envoy to combat anti-Semitism for the State Department. She told CBN's Faith Nation program it should have been evident that this was a hate crime against Jews.
What it shows me is that even our own FBI is not as aware and educated and trained on these issues of anti-Semitism as they should be.
Kohanim also said Jews are the victims of 54% of religiously motivated hate crimes. Well, with religious liberty increasingly under attack here in America, a new group is seeking to recruit lawmakers who will stand for the free exercise of religion at the local, state, and national levels, regardless of political party. CBN's Jenna Browder brings us the story.
This weekend, President Biden declared January 16th Religious Freedom Day, honoring America's commitment to protect people of faith. But a recent slew of cases shows religious freedoms being chipped away at.
I was a coach here for 8 years.
Yeah. Washington State High School football coach Joe Kennedy fired for his post-game prayers. A Christian photographer forced to pay thousands of dollars, go to jail, and have her business license revoked for refusing to take photos for same-sex weddings. At Health and Human Services, a leaked memo revealing the Biden administration seeks to unenforce the Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
They target religious foster care agencies, homeless shelters, bakers and florists, hospitals and schools. They even attack nuns who care for the sick and the dying.
The Religious Freedom Institute says these threats can't go unchecked. Former Religious Freedom Ambassador Sam Brownback on CBN's Faith Nation.
One of the rights that God gave to us. I mean, he gave us religious freedom. He gave us the right to choose to do with our own soul what we choose. And no government has the right to interfere with that.
Brownback is spearheading the organization's new National Committee for Religious Freedom. The committee aiming to help elect politicians at all levels and regardless of party who will stand for religious liberty. Each state will have a chapter.
So there'll be a Virginians for religious freedom, a Kansans for religious freedom, Californians for religious freedom. And we'll ask those local state affiliates to determine the major issues in their state and local governance that they want to look at.
It's bipartisan, as you've mentioned, that it's regardless of party. Are you hopeful that you'll get people from both parties?
I am. You know, this used to be a solidly bipartisan issue. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act, when it initially passed, I think it passed the Senate 99-1. There wasn't any division on the First Amendment to the Constitution, the free exercise of religion. But since then, it's divided up a lot more, not internationally. We've stayed together there, but domestically we have. And my hope is that we can start pulling together here saying this is a fundamental right that you cannot have a diverse culture without having these protections for people of faith.
And Ambassador Brownback and the Religious Freedom Institute will launch the committee today at noon. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
A key issue seen as coming at a critical time. Gordon?
It's hard to imagine that you have to form a political committee now to support candidates who say that they will support the freedom of conscience, the freedom of religion. It used to be considered un-American to say we're going to attack somebody on the basis of their religious belief. There's no religious test for office. The Constitution guarantees the free exercise of religion. The state has no business regulating religion. Congress shall pass no act. All of these things were considered fundamental to the American culture, the American experience. It's incredible now that we have to go out and defend it and defend our right in the public square to pray, to proclaim our beliefs. These are now somehow strange. If you get a chance, we've got that leaked memo from the Health and Human Services going after the restoration of Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And it's amazing the logic in it and how they're trying to say, well, we need to protect gay couples in their search for social services and their search for adoption, and that's why we can no longer support religious freedom. It's absolutely twisted logic and goes exactly in line with what the city of Philadelphia did, saying we want to defund Christian adoption services that have been serving the city for over 100 years. It's amazing, the logic, and we need to stand up for our right to believe, our right of freedom of conscience, our right of assembly, our right of free speech and freedom of religion. And we need to support political candidates, and I would say at every level of government, regardless of the bureaucracy appointment, they need to make a declaration. We stand for freedom of conscience. We stand for the American experiment, this wonderful experiment that we can all be free to believe as the dictates of our conscience tell us. Without that freedom, you really don't have a free culture. So it's amazing to me we've gone this far, but we have. And so I applaud Senator Brownback for forming this committee to say we need to make sure that our candidates for public office, and then in turn the people they appoint to the bureaucratic levers of government, that's actually where the real power is now, they need to say we stand for religious freedom.